This is a video on how to edit AETEMPLATE023 from Motion Template, and it's actually called Frame Edit CC 2014 in my case because I'm on Creative Cloud. If you're still on Creative Suite, you can open up the CS6 version and it will be the same. The first thing I'm going to do is look at the final rendered movie of this and just break it down a little bit. So over in the project window, I'm just going to double click this movie to open it up and have a quick look through. So it starts with this title screen, and what you're looking to do in here is change the text, and then after that there's loads of other compositions, and in each of these you're looking to change the text. There's three lots of text here. You have your top text, you have your lower text, and you have the frame text. The image text will get replaced when you replace the image itself. You can also change the wash that's behind the text, or turn it off and change the colour and actually put borders and things like that on it, but I'll cover that a little bit later. And you can see there's quite a few of these scenes, so that's what you'll be changing. And then at the end there's a outro scene where again you'll be changing the text. So I'll close that down. And when you open up this template, you should be in this composition 1920 1080 output, which has got all the compositions in ready to go. If it's not open, you can go over to the project window, and under output comps you can double click 1920 times 1080 output. So if you look down through the layers, the first layer in the timeline is this scene intro, and I'll just line my playhead above it. So what I want to do on this intro scene is change these two layers of text. They will be up in the first folder called one replace text top in this case. I'll open that up and you can see where you can change your text for the different compositions. This would be scene intro, so that would be the replace intro text. So all I have to do is double click that composition. It's quite simple. Two lines of text. Top layer is the larger text at the top and the lower text is obviously underneath it. So if I want to make changes to that, I can just double click and change this to our people and just click away, and then double click the lower text layer and I'll just type a date in 2015. Now when I go back to the other composition, the main composition 1920 1080, you'll see that it's updated. So you make your changes in this composition and you'll be viewing them in the main comp. There are other changes I can obviously make. It's text, so I could go in and change the colour and the font and the arrangement and all things like that. So I'll go back in and maybe change the colour. So back to replace intro text, double click the top layer. Up in the character palette, maybe I'll change to more of a brown colour, since there's sort of a lot of brown in this scene. Maybe make the font a little bit bigger. I'll switch back to the main comp to see the changes. And now you can see it's a little bit larger and it's a brown colour. And this is how we work with this template. We just go into whichever comp we want to make the changes and then come back to the main comp to see how that looks. So I'll just go back into this text comp and close this down. The next scene is going to be a little bit different. You can see here there's three lots of text. There's the top text, which obviously is sitting at the top of the image, the lower text, the lower the image, and then the frame text. Now you don't have to obviously have all of these. You can choose which one or two or three you want, or have none if you don't want them, but it's there to be used. There's also some colour sitting behind the text that's on the image, and that can be turned on or off. The opacity can be changed and the colour. There's quite a lot of changes you can make in here, but we'll keep this simple for the moment and just start with the text. So I want to change the top text in scene 1. So again, up in the project window I'll be in the replace text top, and this time I want to come down to replace top text 1 because I'm in scene 1, and I'll just double click it and change the text. So I'll select this top layer, double click it, and I'll type something in, girl in field, and then switch back to my main comp, and you can see it says girl in field at the top. Now I obviously want that a bit bolder and a bit bigger maybe, so I'll go back to replace top text, select it here, maybe make the font a little bit bigger, maybe switch to a bold font, whatever changes you want really, and I'll switch back to the main output. Now you can see it's girl in field, bold, larger, so any changes you make will be in this composition and you'll be previewing them in the main comp each time. If you wanted to have the lower text as well, you would come back to your project window and come out of this folder, which is the top text, and come down to the bottom text, which is the second folder down. Open that up, and we're looking to replace the bottom text 1 because I'm in scene 1. So I'll double click that, type something here, let's say 2015, switch back to the main comp, and now that's been changed at the bottom. So you work with the lower text the same way as you work with the upper text. And you work the same way with the frame text. If we wanted to change this frame text, I would just go back to the project window, close down the second replace text bottom folder, and open the next one down, which is called replace text frame. And again, I'm looking for the right scene, which is scene 1, so that'll be replace frame text 1. Double click it and type something in. On a summer day, switch back to the main comp again, and it will be updated. So that's how you work with these comps, no matter which bit of text you want to change. The other thing you might want to change is the image itself. So again, I'm going to go back up to the project window, close down the replace text frame, and it will be the next folder down, so replace image or video. I'll open that folder, and I'm looking again to change replace image 1 because I'm in scene 1. So I'll double click this. So in here, all I'm looking to do is fill the frame with an image. So if I scroll down and find some footage, you won't have this folder. This is my folder to replace the footage. And I will go into there, and there's a flower child. Now obviously looking at the size, this is very large, so it should fill the frame easily. I'll just drag it in, put it on the screen. We don't have to worry about the tree and the text image 1 because when we drop it, it's going to get replaced anyway. And then I can select the layer and reframe it. You can see it's very large at the moment. I'll just select my selection tool. So I can come in here and pan around if I want to. The only important thing is not to leave a gap. You don't want to be seeing the tree behind it because you'll see that in the main comp. So as long as you're filling this frame, it's fine. I can even scale this down a little bit. Just hit S on my keyboard, scale it down a little bit. Maybe move it up a little bit, and I need to make sure I haven't got any borders, so nothing's showing around the edges, so just enough to fill it, maybe slightly to the side, maybe down. Obviously you need to think about where you're going to be putting your text, so if you're going to be using text at the top, you might want to bring that down a little bit further so there's a bit of space for it, or you might want to place her near the top and have the text at the bottom. It's whatever you're after really, so I'll just put that slightly to the side and then switch back to the main comp again. And you can see here now that your text is sitting on the new image that's been replaced. And if I drag my player up and down a little bit, you can see all the animation is in there. There's nothing for you to do other than change the image and the text. Now moving on to the next scene, just drag to that. Again, same thing. You've got a choice of 3 lots of text and an image to change, and this time we'll be working in scene 2. So let's start with the top text. So I'll just go up to the project window, scroll right to the top, and I'm looking for replace text top. Open that up. So this time I'll be looking for replace top text 2 because I'm in scene 2. So I'll double click that, and I'm going to change this to person in sunset, and again switch back to the main comp, and you can see it's now updated at the top. Again, it's a bit light, so you might want to come back to replace top text 2. Select this, up to your character palette, maybe make it bold. You can make it a little bit bigger if you wish, whatever you want really. The main thing is to keep it within the outer edge of this composition, otherwise it will get clipped. But really apart from that, you can do anything you like with it. So if I come back to the main comp, you can see it's bolder now. So same with the lower text. I'll just come back to the project window, open up replace text bottom. That will be replace bottom text 2 because we're in scene 2. Double click the layer if you want to change it. At the beach. Again, I might want to come up to here and make it bold, make it bigger, whatever you want to do to it, and then switch back to the main comp again. And there's person in sunset. at the beach. Again, I'll just make one more change just to show you changing the frame text. So back up to the project window, come down to replace text frame, and this will be replace frame text 2 because I'm in scene 2. Double click, I'll change this, put a date in, 2015 summer. Switch back to the main comp, and there's your text at the bottom. The last thing I would do is change the image. So back up to the project window, come down to replace images or video, and we're in replace image 2 because I'm in scene 2. Double click that. I'll scroll down and find another image. There's our person in the sunset. I'll just drag that straight in and place it on top. So I can drag it around and frame it. I could scale it down, S on the keyboard, just scale it down a little bit. Again, the only thing you've got to watch out for is you don't leave any of the background showing through, because that will show through in the main comp. So just set it up to fill the frame, whatever you're after. And then when I switch back to the main comp, that will be updated. And that's all you need to do. You can just keep going through one after another, going to the next one, and so on and so on and so on, and just making all the changes you need right to the end. Now the last composition, this one called scene outro, is similar to the intro. So in that one you would go in and change the outro text, which will be in this folder at the top, replace text top, and that's where you go in and change the outro text. Now you don't have to change the image to another image. You can use video if you want to. If I line up with the third scene, which would be scene 3 here in the timeline, I'll replace this with a piece of video. Coming up to the project window, and I'm looking for, again, the folder that says replace images or video, and I'm looking for scene 3, so replace image 3, double click, and this time I'll drop a piece of video in here. And you can see it's actually the wrong size, so I would need to scale this up a little bit. I'm just going to hit S and scale this up. Again, all I'm really interested in is making sure I can't see any of the background, so I can just put it in here, frame it up. You can see it's the videos playing in here. I can obviously trim the video, move it earlier, and when I switch back to my main comp, that will be updated. So you can see that's a piece of video now playing in there as opposed to an image. So if you want to use movies instead of images, that's fine. You just have to obviously watch out for the borders like you do with the images. Now going back to scene 1, and looking at this, I don't really want 3 lines of text on here. I might just want, say, the lower text in this case, because the top text is over the top of a head. Now to control these compositions, you do it via the top layer. So you select that layer and then go up to the top to your project window, and you want to open the effects controls. Mine are not open at the moment, so I'm going to go up to the window menu and choose effects controls, null controller 1. Yours might be open already, but mine was closed down. And now you can see the effects controls for this top layer called null controller 1. All the controls you're going to use to customize this scene and all the other scenes are in here. So I'll just reposition my framing a little bit so we can see all the controllers. So working down from the top, I've already decided I don't want this top text, so I can come up to the effects controls and take the slider for the text opacity down to 0. You see as I drag that down, it's fading in that text. So really I want to put that on 0 because I don't want to use any text at the top. I also don't want this colour wash over the top, so that would be the second control down. So moving down, you can see I can push it up, push it down. I can come in here, put this on 0. So really what I've just done is turned off the text and the wash for the top text. I'm now looking at the bottom text, the one that says 2015. So the first control there is the opacity, so I can push that up. Maybe I want that exactly 100%. And then you've got the colour wash behind it, so I can drag that up and down. You see it turns that on and off. I can have it on 100%, full on. Take it off if I don't want it. I'll probably have a little bit like that, so it's semi-transparent. And then the next control is the colour. So let's say I wanted to sample some of the colour from this scene, I could click this pipette, come into here, maybe sample this field at the background. So that's a little bit more graded. Maybe go back to the opacity, push it up a little bit, make it semi-transparent. And moving down to the text that's on the frame, there's no wash on that, so really we're just looking at the opacity, which would be this one here. Bottom text opacity, I can drag that up and down. You can have it a lot stronger if you wish, or take it off. I actually don't want to see it, so I'm just going to put it on 0. Moving down, you've got something called outline shape opacity, which is on 0, so you can't see it at the moment. I can push that up and then pick a colour. If I wanted to do that, that would be the next control down. So I can click that pipette, maybe sample something from the scene, make it fit in a little bit more. Maybe go back to the opacity, take it down a little bit, make it blend a little bit. So if you're after this sort of look, you can use these controls. I'm now going to turn that back to 0 because I don't actually want to see that at the moment. Moving down, you've got something called border opacity. If I push that up, you can see it gives like a shadowy effect, so it looks like the image is sitting slightly behind the frame. So if you're after that look, that's the control you're going to use there. I'll put that one back on 0. Moving down now, we've got like a vignette effect. There's 2 of them set up. There's a rectangular vignette and there's an oval vignette. The rectangular vignette is already on. It defaults to 29. If I push that up, you can see you can have quite a strong effect on that. Push that up to maximum and then move down. I'll miss out the oval opacity for the moment. Come down and you can pick a colour. So I could go in here and maybe sample her hair colour to get it to match a little bit to the scene. And then moving underneath that, you've got the feathering that's going on. You can adjust that, have it on none, make it really sharp, push it up, feather it right out. And then once you've got that feathered, underneath that is the expansion. So you can push this in and out, pull it into the scene or pull it right out, whatever you're after. So these controls here, the feather, the expansion and the colour, work with both of the vignettes. So if I switch the vignettes over, if I put the rectangular vignette onto 0 and then push up the oval opacity for the vignette, you can see it changes to an oval on screen. But the feather, expansion and colour are the same, so if you've changed that, you might want to go in and change the expansion, pull that in, pull that out. Maybe take the feather down. It's all down to the look you're after. The controls are all in one layer. So if you were to move on to the next composition called scene 3, you'll find that it will be changed in there as well. So just going back, I turned off all the text except this lower text with the wash, and I have an oval bluey grey vignette. If I now go forward to the next scene, the lower text is the only one turned on, and I have a bluey grey vignette. So as you go through and make changes on this top layer in the effects controls, it affects all of these compositions in this comp. So you only have to make one set of changes and it will change in all of them. Obviously not including the intro and outro scenes because they just have one lot of text and they're not linked to anything. So you control them individually. So what other changes can you make here? Well, you can go into the main comps themselves and make changes. If I scroll down a bit, I'm on scene 1, and just looking at this you can see it's got the image at the front and there's quite a lot of blur around the outside. There's also a bit of lens flare going on in here as well. Now to edit these you have to go into the actual compositions themselves. So if I double click scene 1, which is inside the main comp again, you can see it opens up, and this is where I can get control of individual elements as well. So for example, I might not want so much blur. That would be the second layer up. You can see if I turn it off, there is some blur there, that was from the camera, but nowhere near as much as this second layer up from the bottom. So if you don't want it as blurred, turn this layer off, or if you want to mix it in a little bit, leave it on and take the opacity down a little bit. You can blend it a little bit. You can do anything you like with it. If you want more blur, just go up to the effects controls for this second layer up and give it more blur or tone it down. You have total control. So you can turn it on, off, edit it, whatever you like. And the same with the flares. It's just a rendered movie. I'll just solo it so you can see it. If you don't like this lens flare, You can edit it, obviously take the opacity down, you can duplicate the layer, make it a bit stronger, you can change the mode, it's on screen at the moment, you can turn it off and replace it with your own, and again, any changes you make in here will be reflected back in the main comp. So if I turn off this blurred background, so it's a lot sharper, come back to the main comp, that will be sharper as well. If I come back into scene 1 and switch it back on, so it's blurred, coming into the main comp again, it will be blurred. Now moving on to rendering out, if I go up to the project window, you can see that under output comps there's 2 set up ready to go, and the 1921 is actually inside the 1280 by 720 output and has been resized, so it will render out all your changes no matter which version you choose. Now I'm going to open up the render queue because it's not open at the moment, so I'm going to have to window and choose render queue. Now by default I've set it up to render out the full 1920 by 1080. You can see the tick that's on here. If you wanted to render out a 1280 by 720 HD comp, you just turn this one off and turn the top one on instead. They will render out the same composition that you've just edited. I'll leave this back on the full HD 1920 1080. So really it's just a question of going in and deciding what sort of output you want. So you can come down to output module, click on custom QuickTime and make your changes. Mine's set up to render QuickTime with the H.264 codec. Obviously if you wanted to make a change you could come into here and click on format options and pick a different codec if you wanted to. Or if you didn't want to render a QuickTime you could change that as well, but I'm going to leave that as it is. Cancel that out. The only thing really is to come into output 2 and just point it at where you want it to render to. I've already set it up to render out the composition name, so if I click on that I can point it at wherever I want to render. I actually want it to render to this folder called frame render, so that's fine with me, and I'll just click save and that's ready to go. All I have to do now is hit render and it will start rendering that file out.